Before I play each of these etudes for you, I wanted to give you a quick rundown of some notable points to keep in mind as you prepare for your audition. And we'll begin with the freshman and sophomore lyrical trombone etude. Be sure to note your key signature as soon as you begin practicing this piece and mark in all of your D flats, both low and high, as well as your couple of G flats throughout. Notice that this etude is in a 9/8 time signature, a time signature that you may not be the most comfortable playing in. If you can locate beats 1, 4, and 7 within every measure and feel the etude in a big 3, as opposed to counting out all 9 beats in every single bar, you'll be able to extract more music from the piece and not get bogged down with the notes. Lastly, this piece is written to be played out at dotted quarter equals 84, but feel free to perform it slower than that. I think the tempo of 84 feels a little bit too rushed and doesn't let you showcase your musicality. So let's have a listen. The 910 trombone technical etude is certainly a challenge this year, but one I know you can take on. We're down to just 4 flats instead of 5 in comparison to our lyrical etude, so remember to switch back to G naturals throughout, but don't forget your low and high Ds remain flat. I highly recommend locating each of the 4 beats in every measure, as well as their subdivisions, so you can learn this rhythmically correct from day one. I've gone ahead and overlaid the counts on top of the music now, so if you'd like to pause the video, you can have a reference for that going back. Try to think of this etude in the style of a march to really maximize on your musicality and make sure you're separating notes and being very specific with your articulations. Let's have a listen. The junior and senior trombone lyrical etude is in the key of A flat major, so be sure to locate and mark all of your D flats throughout the piece. You might also notice that your range will be tested a little bit more than the 910 etudes, as this piece does extend to a high A flat in measure 16. The measure that will likely give you the most trouble will be measure 14, as you have F flats and C flats throughout. If it makes it any easier for you, just think of this bar as a 2-octave E major arpeggio, just spelled differently. One way that I like to bring out musicality in this particular example is to add a small ritardando in measure 10 with a slight reset in measure 11 as measure 1 is repeated. Let's have a listen. The 11-12 trombone technical etude is in the comfortable key signature of 3 flats, or more specifically in this case, C minor. It starts with a challenge right out of the gate in measure 2 with a C minor arpeggio 8th note triplet, with a large jump back down to A flat. Work through this slowly and be sure you are hitting the right notes. These intervals are slightly difficult to hear. Measures 7 and 8 have a couple of accidentals in them, so be sure to mark your music exactly where those accidentals carry through the bar. And the final measure is a bit tricky on the slide, so consider playing both D naturals in a flat fourth position to make it a little easier. Let's have a listen. The lyrical etude for freshman and sophomore euphonium players certainly has some tricky rhythms and fast-moving fingers this time around. Be sure to note your key signature of 4 flats and to mark any D flats you have throughout the etude, both low and high. Measures 4 and 6 feature F flats and C flats, and for those of you that don't know the fingerings to those notes yet, F flat is the same as an E natural, so second valve, and C flat is the same as a B natural, or valves 1 and 2. Be careful of a couple of moments where notes are tied into the next beat and don't be early to your next note. Let's have a listen. The 910 euphonium technical etude is in the comfortable key signature of 2 flats, or more specifically in this case, G minor. Because we are in 6/8 time, try to feel this piece in 2 as opposed to counting through every measure in 6. If you can group the first 3 of 6 notes together as big beat 1 and the second 3 of 6 notes together as big beat 2, the musicality of this etude will be able to be brought out more effectively. Try your best to stay on top of the tempo and feel free to push it as fast as you can comfortably get it while not losing any of your accuracy. Let's have a listen. The junior and senior lyrical etude for euphonium has no sharps and no flats, and only a couple of accidentals throughout. Notice the 9/8 time signature, and be sure to feel this piece in 3 as opposed to counting through all 9 beats of every measure. In my opinion, this etude offers some of the best opportunity for musical expression out of any of the trombone or euphonium etudes for any grade level, so be sure to capitalize on that and really let your inner musician shine as you play this. Lastly, make sure to connect every single note underneath the slur marking so as not to have the etude become too articulated or separated. Let's have a listen. the 11-12 technical etude for euphonium is in the comfortable key signature of E flat with 3 flats and the comfortable time signature of 4/4 time. There are two very distinct sections of this etude, measures 1 through 8 and 15 to the end being one of those sections, and then measures 9 through 14 is the other. The first section features a ton of offbeats, so really be sure to feel the pulse so you can be rhythmically accurate. The second section, beginning at measure 9, is a much more melodic, connected melody that should be distinguished as such. It also contains a few rhythms that might be tricky, so identify where beats 1 through 4 are in each bar so that you can be as accurate as possible. Let's have a listen.